I need to hear from our pickup truck audience as we start the hour here on KCMO. Good morning. It's great to be here on a Tuesday. Don't forget about Tirade Tuesday. It's 8:30 this morning. Start thinking about your tirades here on KCMO. And I suppose I could do a 8, 9, 10-minute tirade right now on this, but, I want to hear from you as a pickup driver in and around Kansas City. If you haven't seen, Ford rolled out this F-150 Lightning electric truck. By now, if you're a pickup consumer, or even if you're not, you've seen this car, right? It's the electric vehicle version of their F-150. And, we predicted on this show, and it wasn't some Nostradamus-esque prediction. It was just pretty much common sense that those, especially those who, need a pickup truck, those of you that need it for work, those of you that are driving around a lot for work, that need that pickup truck, are you really going to want to get an electric pickup truck? First off, does that appeal to the average Ford F-150 consumer? Is the electric vehicle a big appeal to the average consumer of a pickup truck? Kind of like the Dylan Mulvaney ad. Does that appeal? Now, not as egregious, obviously, but at its core, does Dylan Mulvaney appeal to the average Bud Light consumer? Well, we know the answer. Of course not. Does the electric vehicle, and by the way, some of the issues with the electric car, does that appeal to the pickup truck user? Of course it doesn't. Well, I know this is going to shock you, but Ford has cut its price of the F-150 Lightning electric truck by up to $10,000. Ford Motor saying yesterday the reduction has dropped the Lightning starting price by almost $10,000 to under $50,000. They say it's the result of lower material costs and the company having more factory output. You know what that means, John? No one's buying these damn things. That when they say more factory output, that's code words for no one's buying the damn car, so we got to lower the price to try to get people to buy the damn car. That's what that means.
Boy, I guess so, and for good reasons. It's like, really, they should say buy the battery and the truck comes free with it, right? Because these things are so costly, and if they go out, I mean, if you're buying a truck, you're, hey, how long am I going to be able to use this thing, Right? So, you see guys out there, they've had them going for 20, 25, 30 years, right? 200,000 miles on them, turning them over. You're not looking for something that's going to be dead at the end of the next fiscal quarter.
Exactly right. Or at the end of the next day because you didn't charge the thing the night before. And then you're stuck in a field that doesn't have any cell phone service saying, could someone come pick me up? My car. I forgot to charge my car last night. It's like it has never been something that's been realistic. For those of you that use your truck for work, it just has never been a realistic option. But remember, the government has been incentivizing automakers to push these electric cars, despite the fact that they are not, in many ways, what they know their consumers want. But they've been incentivized to make them. And by the way, you've been incentivized to buy them. Don't forget about the Inflation Reduction Act, the scam that was the Inflation Reduction Act last year that the Biden administration passed. It spent a lot of money, and they claimed it was an Inflation Reduction Act. Remember what this did? There was a caveat in the Inflation Reduction Act that gave massive credits for buying electric vehicles. Up to $7,500 you would get on a tax credit if you buy an electric vehicle. And by the way, the only limits in last year's law were that the SUVs had to be under $80,000, they had to be built in North America, and you had to make under $150,000 a year for an individual. I mean, what a scam, right? This was supposed to help the little guy. This was all about a giveaway to rich people who want to buy electric toy cars. That's what the bill was. That's what it was. That's what it still is. And they've tweaked some of these limits a little bit. But at its very core, when you are giving people making up to $150,000 a year, $7,500 tax credits on electric cars to go buy them to supposedly save the planet, tell me, does that help the working stiff? Does that help you as you're getting up today and going to the office? Is that something that you were really thinking about? Geez, I'd buy one of these Ford Lightning F-150s, but gosh, I need a tax credit to make it work. So despite the fact that the government is incentivizing automakers to make these things, John, and they're incentivizing people to buy these things, still Ford is having to lower the price of their electric trucks because nobody wants them, despite the government basically begging you to buy them. What a concept.
So we're kind of profiling here. What if you were driving your F-150 Lightning to the liquor store to get some Bud Light, listening to Luke Combs play Fast Car on the way? What does that say about you, huh?
Now you've really got them all twisted in a pretzel there in mainstream media.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. 913-408-7710. That's the studio and the text line here on KCMO Talk Radio. Let's go to Luis in Shawnee. What's up, my man?
Hey, good morning, Pete. Keep in mind, I was born in the mid-'90s, and I own two '90s Chevy trucks. When the throttle body goes out, when the starter goes out, when I need to change the brakes, when the battery goes out, I can fix it. I don't need to wait for a specialty tool or technician to fix it like all these electric car vehicle owners, these EV owners. And what people don't think about is when you buy these electric vehicles, the mom and pop stores, the mom and pop mechanic shops around town, they can't work on it. They won't work on it. So you're not only hurting like the parts stores when you go and buy a new starter or a new battery, you're hurting guys that are just working on trucks, working on same 30, 40-year-old trucks that mine right now I'm looking at has 195,843 miles on it, still running strong. And anytime anything breaks on it, I just watch a YouTube video and I fix it. No one ever talks about that. So I'm not ever going to buy an EV. I'm not going to be an EV owner. And I'm born in 1993. So these are the best trucks ever made. And I wish we just, the EPA would stay out of it and keep fixing, keep building on the Chevy small block. That's all I got to say about that.
Luis, that is a front runner for caller of the day right there. That's well done, sir. And I wish if I could have one skill, Luis, it would be your skill to watch a YouTube video and then fix my car. That is, geez, I'm jealous now. Now Luis is just making me jealous. It's not even 7:15 in the morning. Gosh. Looking at a YouTube video and fixing a car. I mean, I look at a YouTube video to try to fix a light bulb, and I'll be lucky to do it.
My neighbor yesterday was out in his driveway, asked if I wanted to help him with his car stuff. Him and one of his buddies were out there, and I was like, I can hold the tools for you. That's all I could do. So I offered that much.
Well, that's very nice of you, John. Mark, very nice of you. That is, maybe that says something about those of us in radio. Manual skill sets are not our forte. Big mouths, limited manual skill sets. It runs in the industry. But gosh, Luis is also spot on with his broader point there. You can't go to the mom and pop car mechanic to often get these EVs fixed, right? You got to go back to the dealer. That costs you an arm and a leg. He can fix his truck from 25 plus years ago by watching a YouTube video. You're not going to do that with these EVs. You wouldn't even know where to start a lot of times with these EVs. For what? To make Joe Biden and Kamala Harris feel better about themselves? Right? Mm-hmm. To make some woke lib in Martha's Vineyard feel like, well, good thing Luis in Shawnee, Kansas is trying to save the planet with his EV as they sit in a 10,000 square foot mansion on the coast of Massachusetts. I mean, come on now.
Hey, my repair guide's
these
all
things
in
aren't
Mandarin.
selling.
Yeah, my repair guide's all printed in Mandarin, right?
That's right. Yeah, and don't forget, as many of you are pointing out on the text line, the EVs, the batteries themselves, are mined using child labor in the Far East. I mean, don't forget that part as well. But don't worry, we're saving the planet. Don't worry. The coastal elites are very happy that you are considering buying your EV, which you don't know how to fix and cost you an arm and a leg, and you got to charge overnight. And if you forget to charge it, you're going to be stuck on the side of the road.
Well, certainly the
Ford
Chinese
has got to wake up.
Yeah, the Chinese are expanding their geographical or the geological influence across the map too. So they're in Africa or South America mining these products needed. Yeah. Good for them. It's working out great for them, not so much for us. I just hope that the auto manufacturers realize that these are loser efforts. If you want to make your little Tesla cars for people in cities to drive around and feel good about themselves and pat themselves on the back, so be it. But the pickup truck,
The electric pickup truck, there is not a customer base for it right now. And when Ford announces yesterday it's cutting the Lightning F-150 by $10,000, despite the fact that you can get a $7,500 rebate if you buy one of these things, courtesy of the Inflation Reduction Act, that tells you all you need to know. 913-408-7710. Bottom of the hour, Dave Trobert, Kansas Policy Institute, will be here. Mike Steinmeier, Independent City Councilman, just after 8 o'clock, after they are looking to go ahead with a lawsuit against Jackson County after the assessment debacle. Busy next hour. Pete Mundo on KCMO. Well, this is interesting. You know, I'm not obviously as in tune with the day-to-day of how automakers raise their prices, lower their prices, but this is on the text line. Pete, Ford raised the base price of its Lightning F-150, the electric vehicle F-150, by $10,000 when the government announced the Inflation Reduction Act that included a tax credit for electric vehicles purchased. Now, like I said, I'm not in the market for an electric vehicle or a new car at all right now, so I don't remember that, but that also is a great example of how government involvement does nothing to actually help lower costs and help lower prices. Because when the Inflation Reduction Act was announced, part of it was you get a tax credit for buying an EV, an electric vehicle. If you make under $150,000, you could buy a new EV and you could get a $7,500 tax credit. Well, now Ford announces yesterday that they are reducing the price of their F-150 Lightning electric truck by up to $10,000. To me, the signal there, and Ford is kind of admitting it in a roundabout way, they're admitting, and they say, it's because of lower material costs and the company having more factory output. What does that mean? Essentially, more factory output because, well, no one's buying these darn things. The government still wants you to buy them, but they don't actually understand who the consumer is for these EVs. And the consumer for the EV is not the person who's driving around an F-150. That's not you. I mean, we have thousands of examples right here in Kansas City and listeners of this show who could tell the government, who could tell Ford, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your money. But once again, Ford wants to make sure that it seems sufficiently woke, down with the movement at times when it comes to promoting EVs. They make these stupid things and no one buys them. And now they got to lower the price. The marketplace is never wrong. John in KC North. What's up, John? Good morning. John, are you there? No, John. All right, let's go to Daniel in Independence. What's up, Daniel?
Hey, so I wanted to put a plug in. I drive a pickup truck. I'm a carpenter, and I figured my next truck would be an electric vehicle. And I don't like the pressure coming from the government. I think the market should drive it. But I'm old enough to remember when they went from carburetors to electronic fuel ignition, and there was the same group of people. Oh, I can work on my truck. I'm never going to get a electronic fuel. It's going to be carburetor for me because I can work on them. Well, that's because you had to work on them, and now we look at carburetors with disdain because the electronic fuel is so much more reliable and so much more efficient. And so I think the electric vehicles are getting a kind of a bad rap, but I think they're going to be a lot more reliable and a lot more dependable in the long run once they get the battery situation fixed, not being so expensive. But
Daniel,
I'm kind of looking forward to it.
I think that you're onto something there when you say that, well, there may be something down the road. But I think you would agree, right, that right now we simply don't live in that climate. When you have hours upon hours upon hours to sit there to charge your car, I mean, that's not realistic. I mean, think of yourself, right, as a carpenter. I mean, are you going to sit there potentially for hours on end if you forget to plug your car in and, be late to work or late to jobs you've got because, well, I forgot to charge my EV last night? I mean, it's just not realistic for a lot of people.
It takes some discipline and some new ways of planning, but I think the convenience of being able to. I mean, I don't drive that much, so if I plugged it in and had a routine where I plugged it in overnight, I don't think it would be my only vehicle. I'd have to have a gas car also for trip.
Yeah,
but it would definitely not be a. Yeah, I think having it as the sole vehicle would be kind of a mistake.
And until they can get the EV, Daniel, appreciate the call, until they can get the electric vehicle to the point where it can be the single car for somebody like you, then it's never going to be mainstream. I'm not knocking it because it's an EV. Now, I think it's hypocritical, the EV push. I think the government trying to force them onto us is unnecessary and unrealistic. But to your point, there may be a day when the EV does make more sense, when it doesn't take hours to charge. That day may come, but it's not now. And the marketplace is telling automakers and telling Ford it's not now.